Great, thank you. I want to go ahead and start off by welcoming everyone to our June TAC meeting. TAC members, if possible, please enable your video for the meeting today. Interim Commissioner Robin Fields Kinney sends her regrets that she cannot attend our meeting today. She is attending the Kentucky State Board of Education meeting. At this time, I will turn the meeting over to our chairperson, Jamal Stiles, for roll call and approval of summary minutes.
Good morning, everybody. It's good to see you this morning. I will do the roll call first, and then we will do the approval of the minutes. If you could go to the next slide. Go ahead and go to the next slide. There we go. All right, so when I call your name, either say here or you can type here into the chat. Chad Davidson.
I am here.
Good morning. Carla Criswell. Jen Davis. Misty Bevins. April Jackson. Kenita Ballard.
I am here.
Good morning. Gregory Smith. Erica Dill. Byron Wilson. Amanda Claire. Susan Sintra.
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning. Rosa Kubera Hurley. Donnie Wilkerson. Jane Maudlin.
Good morning. I'm here.
Good morning. Melanie Callahan.
Good morning. I'm here. Present.
Carla Lawson.
Good morning. I'm here.
Good morning. Charlene Martin. Jennifer Stewart.
I'm here.
Good morning. Amy Leeskane.
Good morning. I'm here.
Good morning. Mandy Perez. And Kevin Daly.
I'm here.
Good morning. Is there anybody's name I did not call who came in late as I was going through that list? I don't want to miss anybody. All right, awesome. All right, we're actually, so the next step is to approve our minutes for the March meeting. So on the agenda and on the slides, there's a link to those minutes. If you'll just take a few seconds, let's take about 30 seconds just to go through those. Just read through those and see if you have any questions or see if there's anything that needs to be updated. And then I'll need a motion to approve those and then also a second.
Susan Sintra makes a motion to approve.
Okay, thank you, Susan Sintra. I need a second, please.
Chad Davidson, second.
Chad Davidson, second. Awesome. All right, so this is just something to think about as we go through the meeting today. So on the roll call list, there were names that were highlighted, and those are going to be people that are rotating off of this council. And so on slide 7 is a map of Kentucky, and it shows you where all of those regions are in the state. And so at the end of the meeting, we'll talk more about this and the process that's going to be involved in that. But if you know somebody from your district or your school that you think would be a good member of the TAC, or somebody that maybe that you don't work with but lives in that region, that would be a good addition to this council. or committee, this would be, think about, somebody, and then at the end of the meeting, we will talk more about that. But there's a substantial amount of people that are rotating off. I'm one of those people. And so one thing to also be thinking about that we'll talk about it at the end of the meeting is selecting a new chairperson for the next year. So maybe that's you, maybe you're interested in that. And so we'll talk about the process at the end, but I want you to be thinking about that throughout the meeting, thinking about potential members that could rotate on for the next 3 years, and then also a chairperson for the next year. So just some things to be thinking about as we move through. Also, make sure that you do the digital sign-in so that we can record your attendance for attending today's meeting. All right, any questions before we move on? One thing with the TAC members, you have to be a classroom teacher. And I know we've had people rotate off in the past that got other positions outside of the classroom. So they have to be an active classroom teacher to be on the Teacher Advisory Council. All right, so moving on to our next item on the agenda is going to be Marty Clark from the Office of Education and Technology, who will be presenting on the guidance implications with using artificial intelligence. And I'll let you take over, Marty.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I'm going to share my screen here and just make sure that everyone can see it. And so has anyone heard of artificial intelligence? Yeah, so a very, very interesting and hot topic for us right now. And I wanted to share with the TAC that, this is a topic that we have been discussing at the Kentucky Department of Education for quite some time. We're watching a lot of spaces in terms of artificial intelligence, but we're also actively engaging. And I think that's an interesting point for us. I'll share some things today. This is a kind of an approach that we took with all of our KDE members in the Team KDE meeting. So that's all Kentucky Department of Education agency team members to have a larger discussion about artificial intelligence. And what we're hoping is that at the school level, at the district level, we're having these similar conversations. I'll share that earlier in the week, I had an opportunity to meet up with the Kentucky School Boards Association. And of course, all of us in our school districts, all but just a couple, subscribe to the policies and procedures from KSBA to help from a model policy perspective anytime new laws come out. And I was okay, I'm going to go back and forth and just kind of shift from the folks in the room and the folks online. So KSBA helps drive and keep all of our policies and procedures intact. And there's a question about, do we need to have, or what is the specific artificial intelligence policy that we should have at the school district level? And we have some planning and collaborative meetings set up over the next couple of months as all of our school districts are adopting the new policies for the upcoming school year. So that's exciting. I'm going to share that. But I thought it would be helpful. Stacy asked if we could help lead a conversation regarding artificial intelligence and how that plays in at our school and district level. For me personally, I'm a former classroom teacher like you, and worked at a district leadership level for quite some time. I've been at the Department of Ed now for a little while. I'm our chief digital officer, and so I care about and think about all the blinky lights. Like, the blinky lights are good, but really where my passion fits in, where my research is, and where I focus a lot of our programmatic work is how technologies fit into learning. Like, that's a really important part of what we do. I hope it comes through today, but you'll find that I am not let's just use a bunch of technology for technology's sake. That's never what our approach is going to be. Our approach is always going to be using the right technologies at the right time for the right person. I believe that, some bold kind of statements that help front load this conversation are, I believe in personalized learning. And I do not believe that we can scale personalized learning in our schools without the uses of smart technologies. And so that's certainly an area for us to think about, grapple with, and wrestle with that I think is important. So I'm going to take through just some big ideas. The best part about today and thinking about artificial intelligence is stemming the next question, the next best question. And so it's a conversation. And I think you mentioned that before we started, like, oh, this should generate some conversation, some ideas. I think generally we all have a kind of a viewpoint. And ideally as teachers that believe in learning, that we can learn from each other and help each other in our next step. So we believe that artificial intelligence as a whole is really about integrating new ideas as a learning partner. That's the framing that we would love to position in. I think that's important. That's important for us to think about these technologies as a partner in learning. How can that happen? I do not believe, and a lot of really smart people, smarter than I am, have also pushed forward the idea that AIs will not replace teachers. That's not going to happen. There's not a place where that happens. Technologies will not replace teachers. But I've been one that pushed on the thinking or the idea that while I don't believe AI will replace great teachers, I do believe that great teachers who learn to integrate AI will replace teachers who may not, right? And so that's important. So what I like to think about with AI is, can you help me? And so as a partner, I know that all of the people that I work with a lot, shoulder partners that we think together, we learn together. I have people who push me to think new ways or do things in a different way. It's all about help. How can I help you? How can you help me? And I think that's a great framing for it. And strategically, I would like for us to position artificial intelligence simply as emerging technology. It's just emerging tech. That's all it is. Artificial intelligence has been around for a while. We'll kind of talk about where it's different today versus where it was 10 years ago, but it's just emerging technologies. I would like you to position your thinking around the launch of the internet. And so if we think about the transition to the Kentucky Education Reform Act, some of us were a part of that. I was in my initial years of learning how to be a teacher at that time, and the internet, and we introduced into our schools and classrooms, and computers were not in classrooms for a period of time. And so it's emerging technologies that we all had to grapple with and figure out, can these ideas help in learning or not, and when and where is it best suited? This is no different. And so it's emerging technologies. I also would invite you to think about artificial intelligence and in parallel to social media. How many of us leverage social media in our personal life? How many of us leverage social media at our school level, district level? There's a lot to grapple with there. And there's a lot of questions that we need to ask. And so before we move any further, there's a belief statement that we are pushing. It's inside of our what's called our KETS master plan. That's the Kentucky Education Technology System. That's established by law. It's essentially in Kentucky, it's our digital learning plan. It's our ed tech plan at the state level. And so we have a belief statement and an area of emphasis that we're wrapping strategies around. There's a lot of them, but one of them specific for this conversation is to encourage, engage, and empower the safe, secure, and responsible. So those three things, safe, secure, and responsible uses of AI into our schools. That's both on the school efficiency side, because there's a lot of areas where we can get help. Remember that help part. And then there's a lot of ideas in the learning space by teachers and students. The key thing here is for us to ensure that we stay in the loop. We stay in the loop with the work. And that's what's going to make for strong, smart, safe, secure, and responsible implementations of AI. So that's important for us. And so we've launched we were the 5th state in the country to launch a artificial intelligence guidance brief. We call it a guidance brief. It's not a policy brief. That's what we're working with KSBA on to help drive the policy, because they do that really, really well. We do not do that for them. But the guidance brief wraps all of this thinking into a single point of emphasis for district and school leaders to grapple with, to wrestle with, to think about implementations. So if you go to KETS.news, remember that's KETS, that's Kentucky Education Technology System, KETS.news/AI, you can download that guidance brief. It's a living guidance brief. It's an iterative thing that we're going to continue to approach and update and modernize to be more helpful as we get more feedback, as more and more folks start to implement or think about artificial intelligence in a new way. So again, we're going to replace the term AI with emerging tech. That's the framing that helps us best. It's not this new weird space. It's really the things that we've grappled with for quite some time with any new technologies. So again, encourage, and that's an important word for us. In other words, we're going to encourage and engage in a way that makes sense for us. We're not going to run around, shove our head in the sand and pretend it's going to go away. That's not going to happen. So we want to encourage and engage. The question for us is, how do we encourage and engage inside of our classrooms and schools versus how all of us encourage and engage in our personal lives? We all carry around in our pockets an extremely powerful computer, and that's hyper connected always. It has a heartbeat to a lot of intelligent and interesting resources and interactions that are not school related. They're not classroom related necessarily, but I would position that they're definitely learning related. What we use in our personal lives impacts what we do in our schools and districts, and that's important for us to consider. So we're going to empower. That's an important term for us, which also means that there's professional learning involved on how to use artificial intelligence to innovate how we're working in the learning space and education, and not to just perpetuate outdated kind of ideas. That's important for us. Now, safe, secure, and responsible. This is key for artificial intelligence, and you'll hear the cautionary kind of tone because safe, secure, and responsible wraps in a whole lot of understanding, and it wraps in skill sets that we have to figure out how to apply. How do we know if it's safe? How do we know if it's secure? And certainly, if something I'm doing, knowing or unknowingly, is irresponsible, then how do we learn how to right size that? How do we learn to do the right things? And again, I'll push us back to social medias. And these ideas are not different than when we first jumped on to our first social media app, whether that was Facebook, X, Instagram, Snap, whatever the social media that you touched or are aware of. And so, and then we break down into the ideas of learning and school efficiencies and things like that while remaining in the loop, as I mentioned. So I'm going to speed up a bit because I want to get to kind of a better conversation. But these ideas of consistency and balance become important. There's a lot of words on this slide. I'm not going to read them to you. I just wanted to make them available. They're in the guidance brief, but I just wanted to call out that inside of the guidance brief, we introduce a purpose, we introduce a definition. We're going to unpack what that definition is. And we're going to get into community engagement and feedback from all of us. And that's part of today as well. It's what's the feedback? What are we thinking about as a community? What the application and research says about AI in learning. And then thinking about how we're monitoring our implementations and adoptions at a classroom level, school level. Consistency, balance, and normalization. What does normalization mean? Again, it's not using AI just to use AI. That's not what normalization is. And so I'm actually going to skip through. I just wanted to point out that we believe with emerging technologies that there's a hype cycle. And they all go through the hype cycle. It's almost proven at this point. There's something that there triggers an innovation where people say, let's develop this thing or let's do this thing. So that's important that it triggers, there's something triggers an innovation. And then we get to this peak of inflated expectations. That's true. That's currently where a lot of the artificial intelligence is. We go into a dip, a trough of disillusionment where, oh, we thought it was going to help us do this thing, but it doesn't. And so that's the learning part, the feedback part. And then we get into where we get into a plateau of productivity, you know, where really it's a space where this is normalized in a way that helps us and makes sense. I also like this visual because it points out for us that there's artificial intelligence and then there's generative artificial intelligence. I think that's the thing for us today. That what's new about artificial intelligence is that there are now interfaces where we can all have generative AI help us make or create something that has never been created before. We can collaborate with a tool, an interface. So it's the interface part that's new. It's the idea that a machine can create or make something that's never been made before, based on what we prompt it to, how we tell it or ask it a question. And that's the new part. That's the new part that we're grappling with. And so what we see in not just across the country, but across the globe is this balancing act of, do we prohibit the use and lock it down and shut it down for all teachers, all adults, all students? Do we have this restricted use approach where you can only use it at this time, or you can use a tool, this specific tool, because it's been vetted, which pushes on this idea of requested use. So as a smart teacher, a great teacher, I've vetted this new generative AI tool that I think I know for sure can help in a specific way. So I'm going to request use. So it's a different approach, a slightly different approach from you can only use these two tools versus we open it up for you as a teacher to request the use of specific tools. That makes sense for us as well. And then this idea of just wider usage. And so we don't find anyone on the far right or the far left. I'll ask you at this time, where do you think you are in your school? Are you, and this is just a visual representation of a conversation point, really. Where are you in your school? Are you far left, prohibited use? Are you maybe in that requested use space? So I'll just open for any feedback there, any thoughts? Anyone in the room that you know in your school or your classroom? Have you? Yes.
Byron, go ahead and he's a.
Yeah, so at my school, we use it for distance learning purposes. Like working with deaf and hard of hearing students across the state of Kentucky, like who are not able to come to our school. So that might be a possible way to use it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I think that would fit somewhere on the right side of that balance, right? So it's that requested use approach because you know that it can help in a very specific place. Absolutely. Anyone else care to share where you think your school is or your district is?
I think, sorry, this is Kevin Daly. I'm in Boone County Schools. I think our district is we're probably right in the middle there on that, like somewhere between restricted and requested use. The problem is I don't think any of our teachers are there. So I think our teachers are told about these products and about these resources that are available. They're not taught how to use them effectively and ways to use them, not just to create a quiz or create a lesson plan, but to actually use them to where they increase academic performance. And so right now, I would say the majority of teachers within our school system aren't on this balance at all because they don't want to jump in and jump on the wrong side, I guess. So they're really waiting for that direct instruction on how to best use this, not just told you can use this in so many creative ways, but just like any good teaching, like what are the ways? What are the examples? So that I think that's where our school district is.
Great share, great share. And I would say that that is a conversation that is extended throughout the state, throughout the country, throughout the globe, really. And so what we find is in some spaces, it's pushing the conversation to say, to get at exactly what your point is. And in other areas, the community is driving and the teachers are driving the need to say, hey, and where we find that is if the approach at the district or school level is to the far left, because teachers can't figure it out. They can't play, they can't engage. And so definitely, as general, truth is in the middle somewhere. And so, we think about this curated selection for safe exploration. I think that's a framing that makes sense for Kentucky. We think about access a lot and providing access. Kentucky has always been a leader in providing access. We were the first state in the country to make sure that every classroom had internet access. A lot of people don't know that, but we were, because we believe in access. We believe in, Kevin, exactly to your point, there's this moment where we need to work together from not just from a policy perspective or from an access perspective, but then, the why part, and then the how and the when. So I love to present and push the conversation further, to pause and consider some key questions.
You got one hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Susan.
Thank you, Keith.
Yes.
Oh, I was just going to echo what Kevin was saying, but there's a lot of opportunities out there that I don't know that schools invest in. Well, like, we don't have professional development money, but if we did, it would be great if we could send our people to KISTI and ISTE and all these technology conferences. In fact, there's some work being done. A book was just published earlier this week, Ken Shelton and Dee Lanier, on incorporating AI into classrooms in an equitable construct and how all that actually looks. So there's a lot of resources out there that are outside of our state that would be awesome if there was funding and I guess motivation to help us learn that, so that teachers understand that it's not something, kids aren't just cheating with it. We can use it to do a lot cooler things.
Yeah, and so you said some great share. You're exactly right. And you said a couple of things that I want to make sure to hit on is the equity part. That was a key statement that I heard you say, and then also the cheating part. Because so one thing that I would like to ask is, what is the best entry point for this work and this conversation? And another point that you made, the Kentucky Society for Technology and Education, which is our statewide premier ed tech conference. Several of us have, I think I'm 20 years straight of going to that event and that conference. I had a count, I don't want to say the wrong number, but a huge number of learning sessions wrapped around artificial intelligence. And we had the highest attendance this year that we've ever had at that event. And so that's, to your point, there are opportunities where our state can come together and pull in experts from throughout the country. And we continue to do that. And I think we will continue to do that as we move forward. So some do's. I like to think about do's versus don'ts. I think presenting some of these, tough conversations as don'ts really doesn't work for us. And so question, am I feeding any sensitive or personal information, data into AI that it can use or share with unauthorized people in the future? So artificial intelligence, I think that we will continue to see the advancement in the efficiencies of schools and learning in the learning space. And we will continue to answer this question the best we can. So before we click the button, before we paste the data into an artificial intelligence tool, ask that question of, is it sensitive information? Would I put student information into an open artificial intelligence tool? It certainly could tell me some things, but it's that question of, if it's free to use, then what's the payment? So a lot of tools are being developed that want your data. And so that's a great question to ask before we move forward. Is the AI a part of like your school ecosystem? we all, in all of our schools across the state, we both use Office 365 from Microsoft and Google. We use a lot of Google ecosystem tools. And so is the AI integrated into those ecosystems, or is it a third party that your district does not have a data sharing agreement with? And so again, what you're going to hear the theme of is for us to think about these emerging technologies. It's really about the data and where the data is going. And so that's important for us to think about as we move forward. Does we see a lot of AI bots. So does the AI bot want me to give it permissions to access all of my information? That's a great question. The tool might be amazing and it might do an awesome thing. But really, if it's asking for permissions that we generally wouldn't grant a stranger, then should we grant the AI tool those permissions? We had a scenario where someone started using an AI here. I'll share here at the agency. We had someone find an AI tool that was interesting and it did a thing that was helpful, but had to grant it information to then scrape information from all the people that they're connected to. And so that's a question that we grapple with to make sure that we're asking that question so that we do that safe and responsible next best thing. So I said this a second ago, but all of us as users, is it free? Is the tool free? And that's a great question to ask. If it's free, does my school have an agreement with that tool, that company, that vendor? Does my district have an agreement with that tool, that company, that vendor? And so that's a moment to think about. Is the product generated from AI ethical to user share? So what I'm asking there is, as we are integrating or working with AI, what's produced from that generative? So maybe it's a piece of art, maybe it's a soundtrack, maybe it's text that I'm asking AI to help me write. Is it ethical to use and share without notifying folks who are receiving it that it was generated from AI? Can AI response be shared as is, or does it need to be reviewed first? That's a trick question. So we always want to stay in the loop. We made that point earlier. That's a driving point as we integrate as teachers, as we integrate with students. And then I think a strong point from our perspective, myself as a teacher, have I asked to use? Can I use this for this for this work, for this product? I think that's a great model for our students as well. I teach grad classes at the University of Kentucky, and I'm very clear about the products that I want you to use AI to help you with. And maybe if there's a product that I want you to do on your own. And I think what we ask our students to do becomes pretty important to gauge, was this generated from AI or not? And so it gets to the cheating question. And I think that's a great point as teachers, is to try to understand that if I'm asking for a product and I don't have the opportunity to really understand the depth of work that students put into that product, and if it was easily produced by an AI tool, then, and I didn't articulate not to do that, then there's that cheating question that comes up. So I'm just going to real quickly play a quick game. So is it real or is it AI? This is something that sparks a good conversation with a lot of teachers. So I'll just ask, is it real or AI? And this is a great example. So here's round one. Playing a quick game. Nice landscape. And by the way, we have a lot of student products through Student Technology Leadership Program. Raise your hand if you're familiar with the Student Technology Leadership Program. STLP, there you go. So students are constantly producing art. And so we have this very rich opportunity to look at student produced work. Digital photography is one. So is this real or is it AI? Raise your hand if you think it's real. Okay. Carla thinks it's real. Anyone in the room think it's real? No? Oh my goodness. This is as real as it gets, but it's not. It's actually AI. And so we quickly start to bend our minds around what's possible to create based on just some words and some prompts. So round two, real quick. Is it real or is it AI? It's AI. But my iPhone can do this really well. Is it real or AI? This is actually not real either. It's AI. And so generating with just 7-word prompts to generate this beautiful spring picture of a portrait perspective. And round three, some friends went out to went on a trip. This is pretty basic. Raise your hand if it's real. Surely. Carla, thank you. You're with me every time on it. Keith thinks it's real. Is it AI? Raise your hand. And we have some folks who just don't want to. So this is actually real. This is actually a real photo that was taken. But as we're starting to see, like it's hard to tell. Super hard to tell. Round four. So obviously this was behind the scenes look at creators of modern AI. You may not know some of these folks, and some of these folks you may know. Is it real or is it AI? Well, this was actually both. This was some Photoshop, but also some AI generated stuff. A point for us is we have a lot of partners, and we're working through what those tooling look like with our partners, and I think that's important. Relatively new in the last couple months. And again, I parallel it to social media where our partners are stepping forward, big partners, right? Microsoft, Google, Adobe, and saying, hey, our tools should not be available for minors. They should not be available for students under the age of 18. Now, why are they saying that? And it's not dissimilar from social media, right? So the early launch of social media, there was a push for everyone to jump on social media. And then our big companies and partners said, wait a second, we think that, so I want to push back to safe, secure, and responsible. What your students have to learn and understand and demonstrate in order to really get safe, secure, and responsible. There's a lot there. There's a lot to it. So you might be leveraging AI and you may not know it. And that's a point that I wanted to make. And I'm going to close this out, but really get into a discussion of a lot of the applications that we work with and deal with, and we love and we leverage from a learning perspective, are already integrating AI. They're already doing that. And our students have access to that. But the learning that goes into how to effectively use AI in the right way for learners. And then for teachers, how do we integrate AI into a learning space that makes sense for us, whether that's developing rubrics, developing lesson plans, things like that we can join in and partner with AI makes sense. But when it comes to learning, these are tough questions. And I'm a huge fan of learning is knowledge construction, not information acquisition, right? So it's not just passing information on to kids. It's about really constructing knowledge. And how can we use emerging technologies to do that? It's a big question. Kevin, you hit the nail on the head. And there's not a repeatable game plan. It's an emerging space. There's not here's the one thing to do that's right. It's kind of having the big picture and understanding what these technologies can help us do and being able to work with kids and have a discussion. We push really hard in the areas of digital citizenship. Really, this is about responsible and empowered use. It's not about a widget or a tool necessarily. And so learning is learning. And AI is not going to replace us as teachers. AI is not a magic button that all of a sudden kids are going to produce amazing things. There's a base that has to occur. The cheating space is important for us to grapple with. And I've talked to many groups of teachers already that think about AI as nothing more than a way to cheat. I don't think that's the right positioning. I think that, raise your hand if you're a math teacher. Awesome. So I've positioned that math teachers are cracking up for the last 12 months at all of us reading and writing ELA teachers. And they're laughing all the way to the water fountain saying, come on, y'all. We've had generative AI and calculators forever. Kids have been cheating with calculators forever. We got to figure out how to ask better questions. We got to figure out how to design learning in a different way. Now that generative AI can write, it can produce words based on prompts. And so I've positioned, so I'm not wrong.
No.
Thank you. I'm not wrong. That math.
When you started about AI, I immediately thought calculators,
Yep.
because back when my parents were younger, it was like, you're not gonna carry around a calculator all day.
Calculators do all they want
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So that's good. So I've shopped that hypothesis around, and I think it's right. I think math teachers are cracking up. So thank you for that. So discussion and open up for conversation. Really, it's continuing to have the conversation, figure out your beliefs, your positioning, check out the guidance that we've published. I think it's important. I think it's important to have the discussion locally. In a PLC, I think it's important to have the discussion at the school leadership level, whether that comes from principals to teachers or whether that comes from teachers to principals. That's important to understand that technologies are not just here to teach or to cheat, actually helping us move some big ideas forward. So thoughts, questions, ideas?
My question would be, for example, our students, when they log in to their Chromebooks, they have a platform that they access, and it's called Clever.
Yep.
And so that's like our Launchpad
Yep.
platform.
Yep.
Would there ever be a time where AI or some manner of AI would be present on a Clever platform, like a lot of our other things our other tools that
Yep.
we use? Okay.
100%. And so if you look, so here's a question. It's about the data, right?
Okay.
So we believe in easy, efficient access. So Clever's a great tool.
Yeah.
We're actually launching a project right now where all teachers and all students will have a easier, safer and secure way to log in and get to your stuff faster.
Okay.
So as soon as you're added in Infinite Campus, you will assume 0 day,
Oh, wow.
you will have access to all the tools that your school says you have access to. Very similar to what you're currently experiencing.
Right.
So the point is, and I think it's a great question of what are the tools that you have access to? And do you have an agreement with those tools, those companies?
Right.
That's the first question. And half of those questions in Clever, or half of those tools in Clever right now are already integrating AI.
Okay. So that sort of lends itself to work together. It's just going to be collaborative.
That's right.
Okay.
An example, easy. I could give you several from Google, several from Microsoft because it's easy, but Microsoft has a reading progress tool that already, and it's built with AI. So a student reads a passage and it diagnoses the reading fluency and helps that progress along using AI. And so everyone's running and racing and chasing how to integrate AI the best way. I think it'll become very interesting because I don't want to say or get myself in trouble in any way, but we evaluate solicitations for purchasing stuff all the time.
Right.
Right? You do that at the school level, you do that at the district level, we do that at the state level. It is fascinating how all the companies, all the vendors are saying, we have AI. We have AI. We have AI. So you're going to go buy a car. If someone in here is going to go buy a car this summer and someone's going to say, we have AI in the car, it's buzzy, right? It's fancy. We got to be leery of that. We got to be responsible with that. Just because someone says they have AI, you should say, I don't know. What do you mean by that? And am I good with that? So those are the questions. Great point, great question.
Thank you.
We have one hand raised, Marty, and then we probably need to wrap it up if we can. Kanita?
Hi, this is Kenita Ballard from Jefferson County Public Schools, and not necessarily a question, but a comment in regards to use of AI, where I truly believe that one of the strongest tools that will afford us effective use and collaboration with AI, as well as a deterrent to abuses of AI, is teacher clarity, where if we are using strong rubrics and proficiency scales, et cetera, AI can't necessarily respond to a really specific criteria for what does a successful task look like. Whereas yes, AI can produce, in regards to literacy, AI can produce something that has claim, evidence, and reasoning. But if I am leaning on those success skills where my rubric, my proficiency scale is asking for students to make a text to self connection, text to world connection, text to text connection, that is something that AI can't do. So when we are working and collaborating with our students on really clear expectations, and our expectations are inclusive of those 21st century skills, AI is a product of the 21st century, but it cannot duplicate the human element, and it cannot duplicate that that citizenship, that empathy, that compassion that we want our students to be able to engage with. And I know that that is easier said than done, especially in my field of language arts and literacy, but there are extensions to that in math as well, because math skills fit in a context. It is not just a series of slope and I'm gonna show my weakness here because I do not know. But it's not just that, it's for an intentional purpose. So I think that when we leverage our strength and our autonomy and our high end quality instructional resources, that does discourage the use, or it exposes the use of AI abuse.
So, Kenita, that was beautifully said. Extremely beautifully said. I know we need to move on. Apologize for going a little bit too long. But I'll close with this, and I think it's important. Jumping off your share, and I 100% agree with you. It becomes the next step for us is trying to understand what is true demonstration of learning, right? So when I teach and I ask a learner to create something, it's not about turn it in and read it and check it off. It's about the next step. So Kenita, what does that look like in practice? I think it is changing our approach or improving our approach on demonstration of learning, and how we let kids celebrate what they've learned. And a lot of that is through conversation and demonstration and presentation of learning. And so when I read a thing that somebody wrote, and if I have all those questions, but I can really engage in a conversation, you can't fake it. I mean, very, very small percentage of folks can fake it. If generative AI created the product, but if I can engage in a conversation about that product with that learner, it changes what that looks like. And so again, beautifully said. Thank you for the opportunity to share. I think this is an emerging conversation that maybe we continue to put on a holding point for a few months from now to see where we are. But I think it's a fun place to be here from a learning perspective, not from a technology perspective.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great information. Just something that I think we all need to embrace and be ready to use in our classrooms and our districts. All right, moving on to our next item. Reach to Succeed, Christy Biggerstaff from the Office of Teaching and Learning. Christy, you can take over.
Thank you and good morning. I really enjoyed your presentation, Marty. Thank you for that. I'm going to share my screen. Try to anyway. Go. And Marty, who is definitely better at technology than I am, somehow didn't have the trend. Can you see the transcribing on my screen or no?
Yes.
Not, yeah, I can't get it off. And I know that it's gonna, my Monroe County accent is gonna mess up those words really, really bad. We'll just have to, I'm just gonna ignore it and roll on. Wanted to present to you all just a couple of updates, get any feedback that maybe you all have around the initiatives that we're doing in the Office of Teaching and Learning around literacy, and share some exciting updates with you. So I'm just gonna roll right into it. First and foremost, one of the most exciting things that is happening in our division lately is the launch of our coaching model. This all comes through the Read to Succeed Act that was passed in 2022, and we have been working very hard the last year training our new staff, and that is, of course, me as the director. I have an assistant director, Miss Ashley Hill, who is from Corbin. We have 5 state regional literacy directors that are spread across the state of Kentucky, that come from various different locations, west, east, north, central, and just a phenomenal group of educators that are very passionate about literacy and changing literacy in Kentucky. And then we have 24 state literacy coaching specialists that are going to be placed inside schools this upcoming school year. So we have trained them. We have put them into schools. We've had our initial meetings, and we truly see this as a partnership. This is a brand new model. It's a brand new initiative in our state. We've never done anything like this before. So our literacy coaches are going to be partnered with schools. They're going to be inside schools 4 days a week, as you know, the entire school year. They're going to be side by side with teachers in the trenches. They're going to be coaching them, helping them develop their literacy skills, and truly partnering with school leaders and district leaders to help the basis of all of this is to help our students. So very excited about that launch. That is officially kicking off. We've had our initial meetings with our districts. Our districts are truly excited about having us in the school. So I think it's going to be a great partnership. And hopefully we will build out this model. Our moonshot goal is to have around 80 coaches because literacy is an issue. We have a lot of students that are not reading at proficient levels. So we really want to flip that script and make Kentucky a leader in literacy. So that is all launching, and we're very excited about that work. Also wanted to tell this group about letters. That has been going on. We've had 2 cohorts now. We have launched our 3rd cohort registration. So we have over 4,000 Kentucky educators and administrators that is taking letters, and that is going really, really well. You can see our cohorts there for administrators and educators. As I said, cohort 3 registration is open now. We already have 1,200 educators and administrators registered for cohort 3, and that will not close until the end of August. So that will officially launch in September. I foresee us having a 4th cohort, hopefully, but really want to get the word out there that if they are interested at all in letters, to take that. And just wanted to kind of give you some of the feedback that we have been given through surveys, and our 3rd-party evaluator that's been looking at our letters has been in the field and asked administrators and educators various different questions about our professional learning. And first and foremost, they are saying that it's helping expand their knowledge and skills around literacy. It's helping them understand why their students are struggling. I started as a 4th and 5th grade reading teacher, and when the kids got to me and they didn't have a strong foundation in reading, and a lot of them didn't, I personally did not know how to help. I bought the books, I read articles, I tried various different techniques and strategies, and I really could never get them where I wanted them to be. And that is because I didn't have the knowledge and information that I needed in order to help my struggling students. And Letters is changing that for educators and administrators in Kentucky. Administrators and specialists are saying that this is helping them provide better support to their teachers. it was studied by our third-party evaluator, and it is very eye-opening, and it's just a fact that if an administrator takes the letters for administrators, and that is a different course than what the teachers take, that and supports their teachers in that learning, that it makes all the difference. And of course, we know that. Administrators are the lead learners in their buildings. So the Letters for Administrators is a one-year course. It gives a high-level overview of what the teachers are learning, and then it really focuses in on how they can support their teachers and build out a literacy vision within their schools. The Letters for Educators is a 2-year course, and you say, Christy, that's a lot. It is a lot. It is a lot, but everybody that I've heard from, and I've heard from probably at this point with the 2 cohorts, over 1,000 teachers and surveys and whatnot, emails during presentations, and they have said it's hard, it's a lot. I have a lot on my plate as an educator already, and then to commit to doing 2 years, 8 units of Letters for Educators was a whole different burden, but it's been worth it. And just in a one-word kind of look, this is some of the things that they have been saying. It's life-changing, it is reassuring, it's enlightening, it's informative. So if you have any colleagues that are interested in taking letters, or you want to know more information about either of the courses that we offer through the Kentucky Reading Academies, please reach out to me. I would love to talk to you about this PL. And then the third thing that I wanted to tell this group about, something we're very excited, is through the Read to Succeed Act, we are launching a brand new Kentucky Reads to Succeed reading conference. So unfortunately, as of yesterday, we reached our 1,500 participant capacity. So that's very exciting. But I wish, we've already, I think my project manager said she's already had 50 people added to the wait list. We do have a wait list. It's summer, things happen, and maybe people who have registered can't attend. So if you're interested in that, you can reach out to me and we will put you on the wait list. We will have several different presentations. Emily Hanford, the journalist that kind of broke the literacy internet, to say, that kind of opened up all of that through her podcast. She is going to be our keynote speaker. It's at the Central Bank Center in Lexington. It is for elementary and secondary educators and administrators, district personnel. We're going to have various sessions, some from district presenters. We're going to have a lot from our own division with HQIR and literacy shifts, talk about the just various aspects of literacy. So if you are interested in that, please reach out to me and we can add you to the wait list. So that is all that I had to present to you. So I'm going to open it up and see if any of you all have questions, feedback, need any information. I think Miss Ballard has her hand raised. Or no?
I think that was from last time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right. Good deal. Good deal.
Anybody have any questions for Christy? There's somebody put something in the chat. Oh, that's funny. Any questions for Christy?
Thank you so much for listening to me and regarding our updates. And if you think of a question later, please reach back out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And all of these slides are in the TAC slideshow. So if you do have questions after our meeting today, you can always go back, and their contact information is in that slideshow. All right, next on our agenda is going to be the United We Learn Council updates, and that's going to be Susan Strange and Karen Dodd from the Office of the Commissioner. And I'll let y'all take over.
Oh, hello. My name is Susan Strange. Karen Dodd unfortunately could not be with us. She's at the Board of Education. She's actually presenting the same thing, the Board of Education right next door. So I am the Strategic Plan Program Manager for the Commissioner of, in the Office of the Commissioner. And I am also the Project Manager for the Kentucky United We Learn Council. Hello, Susan Centra. So first, I want to start out by just asking you all as educators, what does it mean when you hear deeper learning, project-based learning, vibrant learning? What does that mean to you? And anybody can just pipe up and share. Yes, please, Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, so it's student-centered is a big part of it.
Absolutely.
Authentic learning.
Oh, yes, please, Carlin.
Oh, I said authentic learning.
Hmm? Susan, I don't want to put you on the spot. You got anything to say about vibrant learning?
Kevin said engagement for.
Yes, engagement. Great. If you all think of anything else, please feel free to put it in the chat. We like to look at these later and share these insights with our committee and our council as we go through things. So. All right, so the Kentucky United We Learn Council is going to be a 4-year council, probably longer, but we are a part of the CGSA grant, the competitive grant for state assessment, and that is a 4-year grant. So it's definitely funded for 4 years. See what happens after that 4 years is up. We are currently in our 2nd year, which will end at the end of September. We have around 55 members. We meet collectively at least twice a year. We meet in the spring and in the fall. Penny Christian, which some of you may know, is our council chair, and then Jim Flynn is our council vice chair. We had our spring convening in April. The actions that were taken during that convening were we approved a council charter. Mr. Jim Flynn was elected as our council vice chair. We reviewed a roadmap, which I'm going to get into a little bit later with you all. We reviewed design principles on the new assessment and accountability system, which we'll get into later. And we also formed some work groups. This is our map. This is our journey to the moon. And the reason that we went with Journey to the Moon is because in the very first meeting in November of 2022, the Kentucky Board of Education Chair Lou Young came and tasked our council with a moonshot. Shoot for the moon. What would this look like if it was in utopia? Like, what would we want this to be? And so we've decided we want to create an approved and reimagined accountability system for the state of Kentucky. And then as we go through this, and just so you all know, this graphic is slightly different from the one that was on the slides. We made a change to the first 2 milestones here. It is still in draft form. This is our version 1.5 or something like that. But in the summer, this summer, we're expecting to have prototypes developed for an accountability system. Our plan is to share those with our local laboratories of learning and some districts to help us engage with those and then revise those as they need to. So we're collecting feedback and revising as we need. Then, and we're also planning to share this with the legislator as soon as we kind of land on what do we want to move forward with as far as these prototypes go. Then we're going to throw that into a testing phase where, again, we're going to have that feedback loop between the KDE, the council, and the field. Those local laboratories and learning districts come in really come in clutch here because they really are living it right now, and they're able to provide a whole bunch of feedback on that. And then in winter 2024, the council will hopefully recommend the accountability model to the Kentucky Department of Education as a whole. Then the council and KDE will recommend the model to the Kentucky Board of Education. And then we will all come together to engage the interim education committee in fall of 2025 and hope that we can get this approved reimagined accountability system by summer of 26. So the design principles is something that our council is made up of 3 committees around the big ideas. So vibrant learning experiences, bold new future, and accelerating innovation. And our accelerating innovation group has been working on a menu of options, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But they came up with design principles that we need to keep in mind when we're creating this accountability system. And so we just want to show you how these fit into the context. So system aspirations are broad statements about the educational system. So that's our moonshot. That's what we want to happen. The design principles are guardrails to support the design of this accountability system. So they help us connect and align our aspirations to the selection and design of each component in that accountability system. And then, of course, we've got essential features, which are essentially diving deeper and deeper into that accountability system and getting into those specifics. I mentioned in our April meeting that we created work groups. Our committees were standing committees, which means they met monthly. Every member of the council is a part of at least one committee. And we found that we needed something to help us get the work going a little bit quicker. And this is what our council members were asking for. So we created work groups that can get together and meet in between the convenings. The work is smaller chunks. So we're able to say, okay, got that done. Let's move on. Let's create another work group if we need to. What's the next thing that we need to move on to? So the work groups that were formed in April are the menu of options, learning with local districts, district supports for quality, and then engaging and communicating with communities. So bear with me on this menu of options one. This one is our big work group. We use the design principles to inform a conversation about what we would like the whole accountability system to look like. And these were some of the key takeaways from that conversation. So I should mention that our work groups are cross committee, so it's not just accelerating innovation, like they have a bunch of people involved in it. So they said, what do we value as professions for our students? How do we align federal and state requirements? We want a balance of student growth on screening assessments with authentic performance-based assessments that drive strong instructional practices. We want a local system that values other subjects beyond those that are just required by federal and state systems. We want accreditation-like feedback on district quality based on a collection of evidence assembled by the district. We want space for local districts to design and test their accountability systems. We want transparency, but elimination of these labels, ability to rank, and public shaming that happens. We want real-time feedback on leading indicators to course correct and improve any lagging indicators. And then we want deeper learning indicators as the focal point of the accountability system. So these are the things that they're keeping in mind as we're coming up with these prototypes in this accountability system. The next group was learning with local districts, which myself and Sarah Snipes is leading. We're actually working on a tool to support districts while they consider designing their local assessment and accountability systems, using the key practices that are being explored in the menu of options. So to break that down, for the menu of options would have all of those key practices, student defenses of learning, student-centered learning, and I can't come up with the rest of them off the top of my head right now, but there's a few of them in there. And so we are mocking up a tool to share with the districts to then get their input and feedback on. We're trying to balance agency guidance with district models. We want tools that complements a top-down and a ground-up approach. So how can we help if it's something that we're asking you to do, and how can we help if it's something that you all have created that we want to share with other people? And then planning an in-person, we did have an in-person work day. We finalized the mock-up and we drafted a sharing and testing plan to start getting that out and getting feedback on it. The district's reports for quality is going to kind of go hand in hand with that learning with local districts, because they are going to help us find those pitfalls and those things that we need to make sure are happening in each of the districts. So they finalized a proposed work plan. They're going to query the field for what resources are needed, study the innovative districts, those L3 districts that have share-worthy resources, and then landscape analysis of existing resources and identify any gaps that we might have. The last work group that was created is an engaging and communicating with communities work group, because even though we have 55 members on the council, we are still missing some representation from across the state of Kentucky. And so we've been really trying to figure out, how do we bring more voices into the room with us without having to add many more people to the council. One of the ways that we did that at the April convening is that we went around and got clips of students and teachers and family members and community members and business members talking about a few of the things that we discussed at that convening: portrait of a learner, defenses of learning, things like that. So we're going to keep the message paced with our roadmap. So we're also going to try to get that information out. Empathy interviews and questions will change accordingly. So we'll do some more of those empathy interviews and bring those voices in when we meet again in July. And I'll go over that in a minute. We identified stakeholder groups that need to be reached. So what groups are underrepresented in the council right now? We generated ideas for a plan to continue collecting those voices. And then the coordination with other work groups to make sure that they're in the loop as the work progresses and they're helping us get that message out to everyone. So I have another question for you. Does anyone have a favorite memory from their time in school that they would consider a vibrant learning experiences that they would like to share with us? Or it could even be something that you taught that you felt was really good. I thought teachers love to talk. That's what I always.
It is June.
It is June. It's true. It's true. They're on break.
Right there. I'll share one. My students and I just did a project-based learning activity that was really, really fun. I've been doing it for years, and we read the I Survived book of the shark attacks of 1916 that took place in New Jersey. It's actually the impetus for Peter Benchley writing the movie Jaws and the screenplay for Jaws and the book of Jaws. But anyways, so we read that book and we learn about the shark and the information in that, take all of that, and we obviously just treat it like a book club or a literature circle, whatever you want to call it. But then we construct a shark. And so it's kind of fun. We do paper and paper mache, things like that. And we build the shark that was the part of the attack. And so each group of kids has different jobs, different roles, and then we sort of bring that shark to life. It's a little morbid. It's a lot of fun. The kids seem to really always enjoy that.
Can I ask what grade level that is?
Middle school. Yeah, so I did this year with 6th grade.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Anybody else have a story? Well, again, we are gathering these voices and we want to share these with our council. So my email, I think it is sent out to everyone. So if you think of a story or you think of things that you want to share, please send it to me and I will make sure that we share it with the council. The last things that I want to talk about is just our next steps for what the council is doing. So KDE staff and expert partners will work on our deliverables between the convenings to get those out. The menu of options work group is meeting in June to come up with a version 2.0 of their menu of options that they have. So they've actually scheduled to meet with the L3s. They've met with our new commissioner. They're meeting with the board to get some feedback on what they currently have so that we can adjust that and revise that as needed. We normally just meet twice a year in the spring and in the fall, but at the April convening and with the roadmap, and I don't know if you all saw, but that timeline is fairly quick. Our council decided that we needed another meeting this summer. So we're actually putting in a third meeting that's going to happen July 29th. So that's happening here at Sauer. And then the prototypes on the menu of options will be shared with advisory groups. You all will see that, and education partners in late summer or early fall. And then our fall convening is scheduled for October 21st and 22nd of this year. And if you guys have any questions or need anything at all, please, you can ask me now, or you can just email me or Karen Dodd.
Any questions about the United Learning Council? All right, so her information is in the slides. So if you do have questions, you can email her after. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, next on our agenda is going to be my science friends, Erica Baker and Amanda Pruitt from the Office of Teaching and Learning, who will be talking about supporting student sense making through equitable discourse. And you all can take over.
All right. Thank you, Jamal. And yes, I was hoping there'd be some science friends in the room, and there's Jamal. So it makes me feel at home. Jamal and I are from the same district of Washington County, so excited to see a familiar face. Amanda and I are here today. We are the science consultants within the Division of Program Standards in the Office of Teaching and Learning, and we wanted to share some of our hard work that we have been doing over the past year or so, developing some resources to support the implementation of Kentucky academic standards for science. I just want to make sure before I go on, everybody can see my screen, right?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay, good deal. All right, so the question that we're going to consider today as we go through this is, what are additional resources or supports that can be used to support educators in implementing the KAS for science? So as we talk about our resources, we're going to come back to this question at the end of our presentation to just open the floor up for you all to share any ideas that you all might have. So in developing some of the most recent resources, we have two that we're going to highlight specifically today. And the first one is on supporting student sense making with equitable discourse. And then the second one is increasing student engagement using the driving question board. These two modules are very different from modules that we have seen and used before. And that is because they have some very specific design features to them. First, they really focus on those highly effective and commonly used instructional strategies that we find in our high quality instructional resources. You all hear that acronym HQIRs a lot right now. And so we are using those strategies that you will find in HQIRs, no matter what HQIR you use specifically in science. The second thing is that these modules provide a curriculum-based professional learning experience that is symmetrical to the student experience, and we utilize an open educational resource to do that. So with our discourse module, we're using an open SciEd 6th grade unit in that to kind of lead participants through that symmetrical experience that students would do in the classroom. And then in the driving question board, and Amanda's going to talk about that one later, we utilize a next gen storylines unit. And so that helps for participants just to be able to engage and to see what it feels like in the classroom, and then to be able to reflect on the type of learning that their students will be experiencing. And in addition to that, another key to design feature that we have built into that module is every session includes a consideration for implementation, so that every teacher can begin to make those next steps into being able to implement that specific practice into their classroom, whether they have an HQIR or not. So I want us to just look at this quote really quick, because this is the basis for the discourse module. It says, in three-dimensional learning, communication and collaboration are the gears that drive sense making. And so that's what we want our students to do. We want them to make sense of the world around them. And to have those vibrant learning experiences that Susan just shared with us. They have to be able to communicate and to collaborate with each other. And so that's what this particular module is about. We have some learning goals within this module. First, we are going to establish the learning environment where all students have equitable access and opportunity to learn through discourse. The second thing is that they are going to develop an understanding of what we mean by equitable discourse and how it supports student sense making. Thirdly, we'll examine why we should use equitable discourse in the science classroom. And we will explore how both teachers and students contribute to that discourse. And then lastly, we'll go through a process to intentionally plan for that equitable academic discourse. We do have an upcoming science professional virtual workshop that we're really excited about, and we wanted to share with you all today. And even if you're not a science person in the room, we would hope that you would take this back to your science people in your district and just let them know that this opportunity is out there. We are going to start these sessions July 22nd through the 25th, and they will be from 10 a.m. To 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so 2 hours, 4 sessions. We're going to have that guidance and successful and intentional facilitation of equitable discourse. They are the 4 2-hour synchronous virtual sessions with asynchronous opportunities built through that, which is why we called it a workshop and not a webinar. It is going to require active participation where participants will be engaged in discussions and, again, that adult learning experience that is symmetrical to the classroom using the HQIR. And participants will receive 12 professional development hours. Well, they're possible, but it is at the discretion of the local school and district. And we've created a QR code on the screen so that you can just scan that code and register. Registering is free. We just want everybody to register by Wednesday, July 17th, so we know how many people to plan for. So now I'm going to turn it over to Amanda, and she's going to share the driving question board module with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica, and thank you for inviting us into your space today to share these additional resources and opportunities to engage in learning with us. So another module that we want to highlight is our improving student engagement in the science classroom using a driving question board. This is a commonly found practice in our HQIRs, as Erica had talked about earlier, that we wanted to uplift and let people understand how to navigate this in the classroom. And so recently we did engage in a virtual workshop slash webinar is what we originally called it. And we have recorded those videos, and to the right of the screen, when you go to our Science Professional Learning and Module page, you will notice some resources around the driving question board. And that last tab is the recordings from that webinar. So we found that would be a valuable resource as we're starting to shift the kind of modules that our Kentucky teachers and leaders are engaging in with us. And to have access to see those, we thought might be beneficial for a few different reasons. One is if you are a teacher leader and you are leading this professional development, maybe at your school or in your district, you are engaging in the leader of this driving question board module, you could watch those webinars to look at different ways in which we engaged with participants, just to help plan and prepare for that navigation in the district. And then also there might be places where teachers do not have the opportunity to engage in a community of learning around the driving question board. So this gives them another opportunity to watch and think about others' considerations and questions and thoughts that were revealed if they find themselves alone going through the module, and wanted just some opportunity to see the other thinking that can be visible in our learning communities. So a few other aspects that you're going to see is a slide presentation that's already developed and prepared, along with a facilitator's guide, and also some additional visual representations that can be used. So those all can be found there at the website where you see below under the driving question board. So some of the goals of this module that we're hoping participants gain is after they go through the module, that they can explain what a driving question board is and understand its purpose in the science classroom. Many times that we find this as a very effective tool, but as teachers engage in this in their classroom, they may have all the great intentions of starting it, but how do you sustain that and come back to it as you are trying to make sense of that phenomenon that's anchored in the students' learning. So we really spend a lot of time in talking about the process of how that occurs of just not a one and done, but this is a critical component to how student questions and thinking around their anchoring phenomenon that they're trying to make sense of. So we hope that they also identify ways that that driving question board can build a community of learners, and how the storyline can be built around the anchoring phenomenon and generate ideas for how that driving question. So next slide, please. I kind of spoke to you guys and said, you know, we did record our first opportunity that we had to engage with some teachers. And through that, we've had an overwhelming positive response in wanting some more opportunities to engage with us around this particular module. So we have an in-person, which we're really excited about, opportunity. It is a one-day training on July 9th from 9 to 3:30. KEDC has graciously offered a space for us. Registration is free, and we hope that possibility that you would again share this with as many people as possible. And we're looking forward to being in person to go through this module with participants. You can also see on the screen one of our visual graphics that we also have within this module that really just lean into, there are some essential components that that's from the phenomenon that's in the room, to questions that students are asking, the investigation that students are doing, the community IR and the understanding of it, and then also making all of their learning visible. So great things that we are able to engage in during this module. Next slide, please. So as we wrap up, again, these are 2 resources that we have developed this year and are excited to get to you to be able to use in your district and in your school. And we hope that you find that these are supportive. And we would love to hear back from you as you are able to either engage with us in learning or you take these resources and use them in our district. We would love to hear success stories. And we also would love to hear the things that you're still needing help with or ways that we can continue crafting our work to support you and the great work that's happening in your district. So I'll pause here to see if there are any questions that you would like to ask Erica or I as we get ready to pass it on to the next person.
All right, any questions for Amanda or Erica? And I will say, if you have science teachers in your district who are new, excuse me, to teaching, these tools are great resources for those people on the KDU website, so that, you know, make sure those people have access to these tools. Any questions? All right, there's their contact information if you do. You can reach out to them. All right, thank you all so much.
Thank you.
All right. Next on our agenda is the legislative update. And that's going to be me, and I'm just going to read to you what Stacy told me to share with you. So some of you requested a legislative update, but the person that is actually in charge of that is actually presenting at the Kentucky State Board meeting right now. So next week, at the Principal Advisory Council meeting, she's going to be providing updates, and we'll send out links, or Stacy will send out the links so that you can watch those dates. But if you have any questions, you can reach out to Stacy, and that Keith shared in the chat the legislative updates. I know some of you asked like for 2 specific bills that were presented, and those are in this link that he shared, which is in the chat. So you can just click on that. and get that information. But if you have questions about any of that, you can reach out to Stacy and she can get you the information about the Principal Advisory Council meeting next week and share with you the recording of that. Does anybody have any questions about that before I move on? All right. Next on our agenda is going to be Melanie Callahan, one of our own, who's going to present on the KET All-Star Class of 2004. And you can go ahead.
Can you all hear me?
Sure can.
All right. Thank you, Emily, for helping me with my slides. I'm glitching today, so thank you so much. I am part of the KET All-Stars Class of 2024. If you want to move on to the next slide, there are 21 of us who submitted applications, resumes, dossiers, all the important stuff. And we were selected from across the Commonwealth to represent certain areas in our communities and throughout the state. So for example, I'm one of the people who covers southeastern portion of the state, but you can see that we're well represented in all portions. So if you ever want to reach out to a KET All-Star for any reason, you can find this on KET's education website and just /All-Stars, and you can find your All-Star for your area. We can go on. So what is the All-Star program? Well, it's an initiative that was actually kicked off pre-COVID era, so pre-pandemic. They had an All-Star program, but then it just sort of did not take off, and it really fizzled, I guess, within the pandemic. So they have relaunched it, and now it is aimed at celebrating and honoring educators across the state who demonstrate, I guess, commitment to educational excellence, and then also really focusing on positive outcomes for all of our students. So on to the next one. And the KET All-Star program is kind of interesting because it's not just for K-12 teachers that are in the public schools. It's educators in Kentucky who have a proven track record of dedication to their students and their community. And I think that's really important, is that there are community elements to your resume and to the selection process. That being said, we have folks right now who are All-Stars who are in early childhood, who are K-12, who have experience with adult education and workplace skills, things of that nature. We have shareholders, stakeholders, community partners. We have a ton of librarians and those who do library work outside of the schools, even in the public libraries. And there are many different ways that they impact students, also families in the community, even with teachers of English as a second language and foreign language teachers who are part of that. And they provide resources throughout the community. Typically, we use PBS resources or the KET resources that can be found on the website or in programming, and even through KET's, obviously, headquarters in Lexington. So the commitment period, if you'd like to be a KET All-Star, we can go back one more, just real quick. Just go back real quick. I want to talk about commitment. The commitment period. As an ambassador, you will be working for 2 years. You participate in the initiatives, and you fulfill your role by having programs in your community. So you're not just taking it to the classroom, you're actually reaching out to the place where you live, the place where you work, and the place where your students reside, along with their families and those who have an investment in these kids. You're reaching out to them. So it's a really kind of a special opportunity to work and engage the program in a meaningful way. All right, moving on. The responsibilities, we do a ton of projects, including our professional development opportunities that will be taking place across Kentucky, from London to Paducah this summer. I just encourage the TAC to look into those learning opportunities for PD, because they're super fun. They're going to be really engaging, I think, and a good way to have in-person meetings, you know, with your colleagues and peers. We'll also have virtual meetings and conferences throughout the summer and then on into the fall. For example, I know that I'm having 4 fall sessions for confident communication with students, and that's going to be something that I think is going to be really valuable for students moving forward. just learning interpersonal skills and communication skills. So it can be anything from, as far as your projects, if you wanted to pursue maybe an opportunity as an all-star, you can do those projects with faculty. You can have lunch and learns, family engagement nights. You can present at conferences, and even work, if you're, for example, a high school teacher, you could work with your club as part of your all-star requirements. So it's been a really, really interesting opportunity for me as a classroom teacher to just learn from other all-stars across the state. So what are the benefits? That'll be our next slide. Well, first of all, you get a lot of specialized training. There's a lot of important things that I think I still have to learn even after all of my years as an educator. So I do enjoy enhancing those skills. There's a $500 stipend for each year of your 2-year commitment. So that's nice. You get ambassadorship status, and you get to represent KVT in working with and for them, and also being alongside their staff, which is exceptional. So recognition of exclusive events and media coverage. I get to hang out with Big Bird and Elmo and all those cats. That's been really fun. And also just the opportunity, I think, to work with and inspire others. So if you have any questions, or if any members of the TAC or anyone would like to reach out to me, you're welcome to. I'd love to just answer any questions that you have, and obviously welcome you to professional development this summer and to apply to be an all-star. So thank you. And there I am, Big Bird.
Awesome. I'm jealous.
Super jelly.
I'm very jealous. All right. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
All right. So next on our agenda is going to be Emily's going to talk about the TAC application, and then also the TAC chair selection process.
Thank you, Jamal. The TAC application is almost ready to send out through a variety of different communication modes. But before we send that out, we wanted to let all of the current TAC members review the application and make sure it includes all pertinent information. So when you open that, please do not submit anything. But if there's anything you wish was on the application that wasn't, let us know. What do you know now that you wish you had known before applying? Any input you can give us will be appreciated. So please make sure you don't share this link out yet, just because we're still in the review phase.
If you do see anything that you think that needs to be added, you can email, even though I'm rotating off, you can email myself or Stacy, and I'll, she can update that, or I'll, relay that to her as well. If you see anything that you think needs to be added or adjusted or taken away, or from your experience being on the council.
Hey, Jamal, does anyone have any feedback you want to give now, or are you guys ready to move on? Okay, if you'll just send that information to Jamal or Stacy, that would be great. As mentioned, Jamal is rotating off. We appreciate all of the time that he has taken serving as our chairperson, but it is time to select a new chairperson for a 1-year term. Jamal's done an excellent job in this role, and we appreciate him. The procedure we use to select the chairperson is up to the council. We could do a volunteer, we could have nominations, we can select the chairperson today or vote confidentially between now and a certain time. So the process we use is completely in your hands. Does anyone have a suggestion for how to select?
You can self-nominate as well. if you want. And I will tell you a little bit about the process. It's really, I mean, the bulk of what you do is running the meeting. Stacy and I always meet usually like 3 or 4 days before the meeting just to go over the slides, to make sure that I have no questions. We communicate, back and forth a little bit about items on the agenda. You get those emails from me asking if there's anything that you want to discuss, and then I forward that to her. So it's not very time consuming. You're already putting in the time as a member of the council. There's just a little bit of extra work, but nothing that none of you couldn't do. Any volunteers? All right, so let's do this because we have people who are not here. We will send out an email asking, just kind of following up with what we talked about here, to see if we have any nominations or anybody who is self-nominating. If we have more than one person, Stacy said that we would send out just maybe like a bio of those people, and then I guess we would have a vote for those individuals if we have more than one person. So since nobody's volunteering right now, within the next few days, I'll follow up with Stacy. Within the next few days, we'll send out another email asking for volunteers, and then we'll move from there. Is everybody okay with that?
That sounds great. Thank you, Jamal.
Okay. All right. Our next item is the meeting dates for the rest of the year, and then even into, well, actually for the next year out. So if you're staying on the council, I would go ahead and write those down. Whoever is selected as the chair, their first meeting will be their first meeting will be September the 12th. And then the application process actually will open at the beginning of August, I'm pretty sure, and will close at the end of August so that the new members will be selected so that they can attend the September 12th meeting. I'm pretty sure that's the timeline. I saw that somewhere. So it's a pretty quick turnaround for that, but not a lot of time there. So those are the meeting dates for the next year. Just a few things for housekeeping. If you didn't sign in, make sure that you go back and do that. The sign is on the chat stream. It's also in the slides as well. Once the application does open, I have a feeling Stacy will actually send that out to let you all know so that you can have people apply. But the regions, again, are on slide 7, and the people who are rotating off in their regions are on slide 6, so that you can review those as well. Does anybody have any last minute questions or comments before we wrap up for today? All right, well, it's been great serving with you all the last 3 years. I've enjoyed being on the council with you. I hope you all have a great summer. You'll be hearing from me about the TAC chair. I guess that'll be my last task. But again, it's been great serving with you all. I hope you have a great and safe summer. Enjoy some time of rest. And as you go into the next school year, I hope you have a great school year. And I need a motion to adjourn in a second. Okay, Byron motions. And then Carla second. All right, thank you all so much. Have a great day.